My name is AJ Riedel, and you're listening to the Thriving Through podcast, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with self-employed consultants about what it really takes to build a sustainable, profitable, and fulfilling consulting practice. If you're a consultant struggling with inconsistent income, wondering why some months feel like feast and others feel like famine, today's episode is for you. I'm joined by Jason Mundy, founder of OnPoint Business Advisors, who made the leap from a 30-year corporate marketing career to building his own consulting and coaching practice. Jason's story is one that many of you will relate to. He had that entrepreneurial itch for years, but life kept getting in the way. A house, a family, corporate responsibilities, all the reasons we tell ourselves we can't make the leap. But eventually he reached that now or never moment that so many successful consultants describe. What I love about Jason's journey is his brutal honesty about the challenges. He'll tell you straight up that his expectations were completely unrealistic. He thought he could just hang up his shingle, update his LinkedIn profile, and start getting business. Sound familiar? In this conversation, we dig deep into the real work of building a consulting practice. Jason shares specific networking strategies that became his most successful lead generation channel, why email campaigns completely flopped for him, and how he had to learn to get comfortable with something that felt completely foreign, promoting himself. We also explore Jason's evolution from offering just fractional chief marketing officer services to adding business and executive coaching, and why that combination works so well for both his clients and his own fulfillment. If you're someone who came from a corporate background and you're struggling with the sales side of consulting, Jason's insight on relationship building versus product selling are going to be particularly valuable. So whether you're just starting your consulting journey or you're a few years in and looking to break through to that next level, Jason's story offers real actionable insights that you can apply to your own practice. Let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Today, my guest is Jason Mundy. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, AJ. I appreciate being here and I look forward to talking to you.
Well, I start with a couple questions that I ask every podcast guest. What was your path to becoming a self-employed consultant?
Verified 480.
Yeah, interesting question. So I spent probably about just close to 30 years in the corporate world. And so I was originally an engineer, and then I always say I went to the dark side, right? I went to sales and marketing and in high tech. And so I worked in the tech industry, small companies, big companies, did some startups, worked for a couple Fortune 100 companies in marketing, leadership, and executive roles. And most recently, I was CMO for a couple of startup SaaS companies. I always had this entrepreneurial itch. I always wanted to start my own business. I was always fascinated with business owners. I had some members of my family who had their own businesses. It was something I knew I always wanted to do, but I just never had the right idea, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And then, life comes along. You start a family, you've got a house, you've got all these responsibilities. You're working the corporate job, and it's really hard to get out of that. But it always was nagging at me. I always felt like I wanted to do it. And I left my last role and I had an opportunity to do it. And I knew at that point in my career, if I didn't do it now, then I would probably never do it. So I took the leap, decided that I wanted to go into consulting and on the marketing side. So I started my business, OnPoint Business Advisors, doing consulting. And added the business and executive coaching piece to it a year later. And that was it. And I made the leap. And I always make the analogy that it's like, if you've ever skydived, it's like jumping out of an airplane. It's just the hardest part is convincing your mind to be able to make that leap out of a perfectly good flying airplane. And so, but once you make the leap, you're committed to it, and that's it. It's hopefully no turning back.
That's a great analogy because every fiber in your being, I have not skydived yet. It's on my bucket list. But I would imagine that as you're standing in that doorway, every fiber of your being is yelling at you saying, "No, you're not
Yeah, you're
safe. This is stupid." But
yeah,
you do it
absolutely.
anyway.
You do it anyway. It's like you have to overcome the mental aspect of it because your brain is telling you like this, do not do this, right? It's going to go bad. It's going to go wrong. And you just got to, if you can overcome that and make that leap, that's it. You're off.
Are you where you expected to be by this time?
Uh, I would say I'm definitely not where I expected to be. I had probably like almost everybody who does this. And I've met so many entrepreneurs, other business owners by nature of what I do with my clients. And I know many other consultants and coaches. I think everybody has an unrealistic expectation of how hard it's going to be, how long it's going to take, the challenges that come into play. So I'm certainly not where I wanted, expected to be, but I'm in a good place. And starting to get traction in the business, and things are going well. But I had a unrealistic and oversimplified perspective on, what it would take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. You're not alone. It
Mhm.
takes I like to say it's kind of like construction. It's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much as you expected.
Yes,
Or maybe
absolutely.
even more than twice, but it's a similar analogy. So speaking of challenges, tell us a story or two about the biggest challenges you faced building your practice and how you've overcome them.
Yeah, a good question. I think um, the hardest aspect, and I think it's like this for everybody, especially in this type of business, is getting clients, right? And it's business development. And so I had this perspective of, okay, I'm going to hang up my shingle. I'm going to put my name out there. I'm going to change my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to go talk to some people, and I'm just going to start getting business. And it's going to be easy. And by no means was that the case, right? There's so much marketing that you need to do. There's so much groundwork that you need to do. Uh, and that's something when you work in a corporate job, even though I was in marketing, so I'm a career marketer. Uh, I wasn't a salesperson, and you don't have to do that, right? You're very focused on what your role is. You're in a functional position, right? You don't have to worry about doing everything. So as a business owner and a solopreneur, you have to do everything, and it was incredibly more challenging than I expected, and I know it is for everybody else, to gain clients, especially to retain clients, especially when you're changing careers and you're going in a completely different direction, right, than what you did before. You have to build relationships. You have to meet so many people. You have to have so many different conversations. And so that was a huge awakening and challenge for me. And what I did is I just really have dug in and experimented. I've done everything I possibly could do. So I'm trying to become a master networker. I attend many networking events. I'm part of different networking organizations. I do a tremendous amount of posting on LinkedIn and putting out content, which kind of goes against my nature. I'm not really comfortable or wasn't comfortable with being a self promoter, but you really have to be a self promoter. Marketing oneself is different than marketing somebody else's product. And so that's something that I had to get comfortable with. And I do that. I've run marketing campaigns. And so I've overcome that by leveraging the skills that I have, and that's being a marketer and knowing how to create content and put that out there. But I really had to get comfortable with networking and going out and meeting all kinds of different people, from all walks of life, different types of businesses, and just really enthralling myself in the world of networking and meeting different people and having many, many, many different conversations. And so I do that. This week was a big networking week for me. I went to 4 networking events, in the morning and in the evening, and it's exhausting, but I do it. And, I just built a new website, and that's like another example. I had one before through my business and coaching practice. I felt like I needed something better that represented more holistically what I do, because I do both business and executive coaching, but I also do consulting. So I'm a fractional chief marketing officer. So I had to make the investment and put time into developing that. And so I just launched that recently. So those are examples of things that I did to really up my business development engine. And it's starting to show results, right? It's starting to pay off, but it takes time, right? And you have to like really lay the groundwork for that. The other area that was a challenge for me was sales, right? So I was in marketing my whole career, right? And so I was the one creating material, creating the message, right? Creating demand generation campaigns, doing PR, AR, all the things that you do in cross marketing. But I was never the one that had to like go out and close the deal and make the sales. And so that was something that doesn't come natural to me. And so I've really had to learn how to do that and get comfortable doing it. And I'm still working on it, but it's repetition. So the more I do it, the better I get at it. And you can take all kinds of sales training to help you out with it and learn that skill. But that was something new for me, and I continue to work on it.
When we talked earlier, you said that you had to disengage from yourself as the product. Tell me what you mean by that, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So when you're marketing and talking about a product, whether that's service or software, or physical technology, or even somebody else, it's not you, right? And so it's very easy to create messaging around it and to create material and to go out there and promote it. But I'm not somebody who is a natural self-promoter. I was never somebody who is always out on LinkedIn and talking about my latest accomplishment and pat myself on the back, right? It's something I'm more reserved. Always uncomfortable with that. I never actually really liked people who I thought were overly self-promotional. So it felt very unnatural and cringy for me to be able to do that, to have to go out and do it. And so when I first started doing that, it was really, really uncomfortable. I was extremely self-conscious about it. I'd put a post out there and I would be like, oh my God, that's terrible. What are people going to think? They're going to judge me by it. I've gotten more and more comfortable. So I really just had to like disengage and like step away from myself and think of it as more about the business and the business as the product and not about myself. So it's like, it's not about me. The other thing is I really try to think about the content that I'm creating and what I'm putting out there as, is it helpful to other people? Am I adding value? Am I putting something out there that it's, someone might take a tidbit away from, or one tip or one trick or something that's going to help them either in their personal lives or in their business, right? So I just learned to be able to kind of disassociate myself from it and think about it more as the business versus, it's about me. And that's me. That's helped a lot.
That's a great reframe, and especially about what you're doing is serving others. You're delivering value in what you put out rather than, it's self-promotion, which for a lot of people feels what you called it cringy. A lot of people feel that way, but you managed to reframe it so that it doesn't feel cringy anymore.
Yeah, for the most part, I'm sure I've put lots of content out there that is cringy, it's a learning experience. Um, you just got to practice and, again, it's all about repetitions. It's like anything else, whether you're playing a sport or learning a new skill, the more reps that you put in, the better you're going to get at it.
Yep, got to get out there and do it.
That's it.
How did when you started out, you said that your messaging, your value proposition, or you said, I'm a marketing expert. And now you fine-tuned your messaging or evolved your messaging to something more compelling. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I was a career marketer, and uh, I wanted to work as a fractional chief marketing officer or fractional marketer. So it was initially all about what could I deliver? What are the types of skills that I have? What marketing value can I bring to my clients? I wanted to be able to do more than that. And the reason that I brought coaching into my practice in both business and executive coaching is when I reflected back on my career. Um, I love completing projects. I love, creating, great content, launching a new website, having an amazing event. All those things are great. Check the box, get the win. But marketing, it's similar to sales. You're like only as good as your last project or the last quarter, right? And then it's like, all right, what's next, right? What have you done for me lately, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
mentality, especially in a corporate world where we're living quarter to quarter. But the one thing that I always enjoyed the most was working with my team and developing high performing teams and building up people. And so that when you bring somebody into the business, you hire somebody and you work with them and you see them develop and you see them grow, that stays with you. That's something that nobody can take away, and it lasts forever. And I really enjoyed that. I always enjoyed working with a great team and building those relationships. And part of being a great manager and leader is your coaching, right? So, you've got to be a player coach, as the term goes. Those are the most successful leaders. But being somebody who can help develop great talent and help guide people and make them successful, right, is what I think sets truly great leaders apart. And I always enjoyed that and always aspired to be able to do it. So it made sense for me to go into coaching. Um, and so I joined Focal Point Business Coaching to give me the skill set, give me the certification, the training, resources, and tools, and to learn how to do coaching in a professional way. And so that allows me to work with business owners, founders of businesses to help them work on the business and work directly with them and see an impact in what they're doing and achieve the outcomes that they're looking for. But also I do executive coaching. So I'm able to work with individuals on their leadership development. So it allows me to be able to do what I did when I was working in a more formal role, that you don't get the opportunity to do if you're just purely doing consulting. If you're doing consulting, you're a hired gun. You're coming in, you're solving a particular problem. You might be an interim. In some cases, I'm an interim marketing leader, but you're not. You're very disconnected. Like, and once the job's done, you move on and you leave that. On the coaching side, it's much more about the human aspect of it. And so it sort of fills that for me and allows me to use some of the skills that I have in that area as well. So I needed to evolve my messaging and I needed to update that to be able to reflect that continuum of what I'm able to do from consulting to coaching. And to me, they're like two sides of the same coin. A lot of people will be like, well, that's two completely different things. It's really not. In some cases, I'm in there, I'm solving the problem for my client. If I'm coaching, I'm working with them to help them solve the problem. So I'm acting more as a guide. And sometimes you're doing both together, and sometimes, you're kind of in the middle.
Are you so but you do both. You do the fractional CMO the consulting side, and you do the coaching. Are you evolving or moving toward one or the other more, or do you like an even balance between the two?
It's a hard question to answer. I have clients on both sides where I'm specifically just doing consulting work and I'm acting as a fractional CMO. And I have clients where I'm doing business coaching and clients where I'm doing executive coaching. And it's kind of an even balance right now. But they do offset each other and they're rewarding in different ways. So I'm not really gravitating, towards one or the other. Maybe at some point I will. I'll find myself kind of wanting to go in more one direction than the other, but they're rewarding in different ways. So one is more humanistic and attached to the people side of things. The other, I still kind of I get the fulfillment of delivering work and completing projects and getting the satisfaction of checking the box on that side of things and actually feeling I'm still practicing what I did for the most of my career.
Okay. Coming from the marketing side, what surprised you most about having to close deals yourself?
How hard it is, right? So there's always this natural tension between marketing and sales, right? And sales will point the finger at marketing. The messaging is good. The marketing is terrible. And marketing will point the finger at sales and be like, we're providing content to you. We're creating all these leads to you, and you're not closing them, right? And what's the problem? You guys aren't fulfilling your end of the bargain. Um, what was surprising to me is like how hard it is to sell and how hard it is to close. And you have to really develop a thick skin in sales. And so in marketing, you're disconnected from it. You do all this great work, you create beautiful websites and content material and create incredible experiences for people, whether it's at events or webinars, whatever it might be. But you don't have to deal with the rejection. And that's probably the hardest part is like you just got to get comfortable with people ignoring you and ghosting you and saying no and getting back up and picking yourself up time after time after time and just you got to keep going at it. And it was surprising how hard that is. So I have a whole other level of respect for salespeople now.
What specific sales skills did you have to develop?
I think it was really building a relationship and trust with somebody first, and then truly listening to them, right? And truly hearing and understanding like what their problem is. But people will buy from those that they trust and like. They'll put that, no matter what they say, that is more important than the quality or performance of the product or the price. Okay. So you really have got to be able to build that relationship and that rapport with them. You've got to build trust with them. And that has a lot to do with your own personal brand as well as the brand of what you're selling. And once you establish that trust and they like you, then being able to then close the deal is going to be that much easier. It's going to be so much easier. So that's probably, I think, the most important thing that I learned.
It's building the relationship.
Building a relationship, yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, that's what for service providers, that's really something that's so totally different from selling a product, or
Absolutely.
selling even other types of services, because ultimately what they're buying is you. They're
They
buying
are.
us.
They're buying you, and there's different sales methodologies out there. The Sandler, there's the Challenger sale, of course. But when you're selling yourself as the product, they've really got to like you, and you've got to have that relationship with them, because they need to trust you. But as I said, but they also need to be able to envision themselves working with you. And so I think when it comes to consulting and it comes to coaching, it's really more about relationship selling than it is anything else.
Okay. I want to switch gears a little bit.
Mhm.
What is your best performing lead generation channel? And what have you tried that completely flopped?
Good question. I would say my best channel is probably good old-fashioned networking. Just getting out there, meeting people belly to belly, or I do a lot of virtual networking as well. And getting to know people, and it's about them. I'm going to go back to trust, right? It's getting them to know you, getting them to trust you, getting them to like you, and then refer to you. So when the opportunity comes along, they're like, oh, I know who you should talk to. I've got the person for you. Now, all the other components to that are important as well. So they're going to check you out. So if someone gets referred to you, they're going to check out your LinkedIn profile. And so you need to have a really strong LinkedIn profile for both you and the business. You need to be consistently putting out content. You need to be present. You need to be, showing up in their feeds. You need to have a strong website. You need to have a good web presence. I'm always been a strong believer that a website it's the first thing people see, right? It is the representation of your persona, whether it's a company, product, or you yourself as a brand. And so they're going to check you out. They're going to check out the website. That represents your brand, and that is key in developing trust with them. So if you get a shabby website, they're going to be like, I don't know so much about this company or this person. And so, that's more of a peripheral effect, I feel. But even if you get introduced to somebody and they're interested, they're going to be checking you out. And so you need to kind of have all those components working together. The channel that has been the least effective for me, I would say, is doing email campaigns. So I've done email campaigns, and I think everybody is struggling with this now. We're all inundated with emails, cold emails coming in. We're inundated with digital ads on LinkedIn. We're inundated with LinkedIn outreach. Right? How many of those do we get a day? Like all these traditional channels are becoming less and less effective because it's just becoming overwhelming for everybody. And so I honestly think there's kind of a shift back towards some of the old school things. And again, I'll just say, like, getting belly to belly and just meeting people face to face, even if it is virtual, I think is more effective than anything out there right now.
Okay. Yeah, I agree about outreach, cold outreach, especially cold emails. I don't, who wants to get those?
Mhm.
Email does have a place in your client acquisition system to nurture, but not to try to generate leads. It's very, very
Absolutely.
low poor ROI on lead generation.
Absolutely. So once you have contact, I have a newsletter I'll sign people up for, and that's just a good way of staying top of mind and getting impressions with them. So even if they're not really looking at it that much, but they're seeing it come in, as long as they're not unsubscribing from it, you're always going to get unsubscribes. But you're constantly making impressions, and so hopefully when the time comes, they're like, oh, I need help in this area. I think who is that person that I think can help out with the problem or the challenge that I have. And, hopefully that will then turn into, an inbound and then contacting you.
Right. Is your consulting practice delivering the lifestyle that you dreamed of?
It is in a lot of different ways. So it's given me the freedom and flexibility to do what I want when I want to do it on my own terms. And so that's rewarding. I have a lot of hobbies outside of work and in pursuits. And so when I want to do that in the middle of the week, I can build my schedule around it. And so that's one of the things that I was also looking for, was to have some flexibility in what I want to do when I want to do it, and being able to call the shots and make the decisions. There's a lot of responsibility and weight that comes with that, but that's something that I really enjoy.
Okay, so you've got the time freedom. What about the financial freedom?
I'd say I'm not, honestly, I'm not where I want to be yet. But I see a pathway there to getting back to where I was and even beyond. There's a runway for that. I think that was one of the things that we talked about early on. I was unrealistic of like how long that would take, but we're getting there, and that's a good thing. But those other freedoms, there's other equity, if you will, that comes with working for yourself, and that's to me, that's worthwhile. There's some trade-offs that you have to make.
Right, right. But yeah, absolutely. Where do you see your practice in 3 to 5 years?
In 3 to 5 years, I would like to get to a point where it's all referral based, right? For the most part, and I don't have to spend as much time on the business development effort. And I can pick and choose the clients that I have. And perhaps that I have built it out where I have several people on the team working for me that can help out, and we can get more specialized in what we do and add some additional services to it.
Okay, so building a team.
Building a team
Good.
and actually building a practice. Perhaps that actually is something that could be sold, right? And that I could exit and that I could transition out of when it's time for me to kind of go do other things in the next phase of my life.
Okay, so building it so you have something to sell, because often with self-employed, with consulting or with a solopreneur, there's not always something to sell. So what you have in mind is something that is an asset that you can sell,
That's
ideally.
right. That's right. And that requires having, you need more than yourself, right? Because this is something I advise my business clients on. If you're going to sell a business, you cannot be the product. And so you have to have something that's unique about you. And that would be creating unique service offerings that are specific and, something only OnPoint Business Advisors can deliver, and having good people who are skilled and knowledgeable to go along with that.
What do you think that are the biggest challenges you're going to face in achieving that goal, achieving that vision?
I think it will be finding the time to be able to work on those creating those things, creating the processes, creating the service offerings, the products in the business, while balancing that with serving clients and also in business development.
Yeah, creating your assets.
That's right.
There's a great book by Daniel Priestley called 24 Assets. And he talks about the different assets that we have to develop in our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a worthwhile read. As we start to wrap up, I have a couple of rapid fire closing questions.
Okay.
What's one book, podcast, or resource that's been invaluable to you as you're building your consulting practice?
As I've been building my consulting practice,
or just more generally,
yeah.
what's one book, podcast, or resource that's been invaluable to you?
One one podcast, and it goes along with the book. So I've always been fascinated with leadership and how to become a better leader. And so I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink, and I listen to his podcast frequently. And so I find that to be invaluable. And then
What's the name of the podcast?
podcast and the book, yeah, I'm going to go over here and grab it. So I'm going to probably come off camera. But this book, I think, is probably the best leadership book that I have ever read. It's Extreme Ownership. You can read that
Okay.
by Jocko
Yep.
Willink. And his podcast is, I forget the exact name of it. It just pops up on my Spotify and or his direct channel. But you just look up Jocko Willink, and it comes out. It's got a new episode pretty much every week. But it's incredible if you're interested in the principles of leadership. It's applicable to everyday life, personal development, but in business as well. So I'd highly recommend this.
Okay, great. What is one piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you started out on your own?
Be patient. It's going to take time, right? Just have the confidence that it'll happen as long as you put the work in and you're fully dedicated to it. But just absolutely, you got to have patience.
Okay, good. Last question. How can listeners connect with you if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Yes. So first of all, connect with me on LinkedIn, right? So it's Jason C. Mundy, right? Reach out to me. Be happy to connect with you that way. You can visit my website, which is onpoint-advisors.com. Or you can email me. It's simply jason@onpointadvisors.com.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Well, Jason, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And that is a wrap on our episode.
Excellent. AJ, thanks so much for having me as a guest. I enjoyed it. And, hopefully everyone else will enjoy it as well. So look forward to hearing from everybody. Thank you.
What a fantastic conversation with Jason. I hope you caught those key insights that could really transform how you approach building your consulting practice. The biggest takeaway for me was Jason's emphasis on patience and relationship building. If you're struggling with inconsistent income, remember that Jason's most successful lead generation comes from networking, getting out there, meeting people belly to belly, and building genuine relationships before ever trying to sell anything. And if you're uncomfortable with self-promotion like Jason was, remember his reframe. It's not about promoting yourself, it's about serving others and delivering value. When you shift your mindset from how can I get clients to how can I help people solve their problems, everything changes. I also loved his advice about being patient. Building a profitable, sustainable consulting practice is a marathon, not a sprint. Jason was brutally honest about having unrealistic expectations. And I think that's something every consultant needs to hear. It's going to take longer than you think. But if you put in the work consistently and stay dedicated, you will get there. If you want to connect with Jason, you can find him on LinkedIn. Just search for Jason C. Mundy, M-U-N-D-Y, or visit his website at OnPoint Advisors, onpoint-advisors.com. I'll include those links in the show notes. And if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. You can always reach me on LinkedIn or through the Thriving Through website, YouTube channel. Your feedback and stories help me bring you the guests and topics that matter most to your consulting journey. Until next time, keep thriving through.